Hey guys, welcome back to Bustin Experience. I'm Brandon, and I have an awesome guest with me today by the name of David. But before we get to that, let me get to the sponsor, all right? Again, we have Hebrews Coffee Smoother. Guys, you got to order this stuff. This stuff is amazing. Yeah, I just sold him on it, right? So, I mean, he's going to try it, and then he'll come back and tell you how much he loves it, right? That's actually my coffee brand that I haven't officially told it. No, it's cool. It's fine. But so, yeah, that's kind of the spoiler right there. But there's the additive, and then there's going to be the coffee coming out pretty soon that's already in it. Try this stuff, guys. It neutralizes 90%, up to 90% of the acid. And if you have, indigestion, upset stomach, any of that stuff that's acid-related, guys, it will neutralize your coffee, and it will make it taste so smooth, so good, right? You're just going to want to drink another cup over and over again. So definitely try it, all right? So, David, and tell me your last name. I was looking
Gornoski.
at Gornoski.
Yeah.
I think I pronounced it right when I was saying it to myself.
You nailed it. Yeah.
So, perfect, man. How you doing today?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Doing very well. Why don't you tell everybody kind of what you do and who you are?
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. And we're here in the heart of North Lakeland. Right?
Yep, that's right.
That's a great thing. I always start my radio broadcast saying, from the heart of Central Florida.
I mean, if it's not coming from the heart, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. It's always from the heart. If it's not from the heart, we don't want anything to do with it.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm a radio host. I host a program called A Neighbor's Choice.
Okay.
And we do it on FM and AM. We started off in WFLA Orlando, just a little bit down the road in the studio in Maitland.
Okay.
On the iHeart radio station there. It's 93.1 FM, 540 AM. And then we picked up a second station, which is now kind of our flagship at the time. Right now it's WHBO News Talk Florida.
Okay.
And that's Tampa Bay, St. Pete, Sarasota. And we do that Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. So it's Eastern time if you're from outside of this area. But, we also have a podcast. We call it Things Hidden.
Okay.
And I'm just motivated with trying to inspire people, kind of similar to what you've told me about yourself, to empower people, right?
Yep.
To empower the human person instead
Absolutely.
of get people stuck on tribalism and groupthink and that kind of stuff.
Exactly. To be able to give people a voice, to express ideas, but to also get rid of ideas, because a lot of us have a lot of ridiculous ideas, and until you talk about it and work it through, I mean, you're not going to know. You're just going to think what you know is what you know.
Right. A lot of people, we carry around all these different hidden mental prisons. Mm-hmm. These bad ideologies, these bad self-talks. And we talk to ourselves, you can't do that. What are you doing?
Exactly.
Slow down. You're not good enough. You're not strong enough. You're not smart enough. You're not whatever. Mm-hmm. Because people plant stuff into us when we're young and whatever, and we're malleable, especially when you're really young.
Yes.
And you can, it's like, you can implant stuff into people at a young age that's almost subconsciously holding people back. And that's one of the things that's holding America back right now, is that we used to be a country where we would create, the first flying machine, you know what I mean? The Wright brothers. We used to do stuff. Nikola Tesla.
Yes.
Was changing the game on so many levels, things that we still haven't even executed on that he was coming up with back then.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
Why don't we have the Nikola Tesla? Yeah, we have a car company named after Tesla, and it's pretty cool, but it's not quite as groundbreaking as what Tesla was doing at his time, right?
Exactly.
And so we're still kind of looking back. Mm-hmm. And my focus is, how do we get us to look forward and find the Teslas and the Galileos of our time, right?
I do love some Elon Musk, though. I mean, he's a
good.
pretty cool dude.
Yeah. I mean, he's as good as we can get right now. I mean, in terms of like those kind of innovators, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But we need to think big. Nixon declared war on cancer in 1960, and where are we at? Did we defeat it yet? No. We've made some progress, but we've also not done enough, in my opinion, to take care of that enemy. You look at things like transportation. You look at our roads. You look at our infrastructure. You look at our if you're in an inner city and you go inside the subways, and it's these old-fashioned systems. They haven't changed in a long, long time.
Yep.
Where is the innovation? Where's that forward spirit? It starts in our hearts. If we're locked up with mental prisons, then we're not even going to get out into the battlefield and start thinking bold and big,
Yeah, and I mean, I think also to kind of add to that, we need to kind of pick our battles as well, because, there's a lot of things that, we don't seem to get over as a country. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of things that, like you said, are just holding us back, and it's like, some people don't seem to want to move forward almost. So finding that way to be able to move forward, to become innovative again, to be able to be the America that we're supposed to be, that we were founded to be, right? Like, that is the great America that I know. Yeah. And we got to find a way to work through this. So that's why, yes, we do these podcasts so we can have these talks so we can work through these issues, I mean, yeah, it might only be one-on-one conversation, but you never know who that person's going to go talk to, right? Or how many people you're going to go talk to personally. So what do you guys usually talk about, the Things Hidden?
So the Things Hidden is our podcast, and then also on the podcast feed is my radio show, A Neighbor's Choice. On A Neighbor's Choice, we talk about current events, we talk about news, we talk about science. On Thursdays, we do Science and You with the physicists in the aerospace field. We talk about science, news, chemistry, what's going on in the stars, what's going on with black holes, that kind of stuff. But most of the time, we're talking about politics, current events, culture, what's going on in the culture. And then the Things Hidden podcast is more of like, that's for folks who want to go a little deeper.
Yeah.
And the Things Hidden, we get into anthropology.
Sounds like my avenue.
Yeah. We get into the mythology, and you got myths all over here.
Right. Oh, I know.
So
yeah, just loaded with myths.
We can go there, but we go into anthropology, history, ethics, so forth. That's more of our deep dive.
Yep.
When we go into like 3-hour conversation, not that long usually, but we get into some deep discussions there.
Mm-hmm.
And so A Neighbor's Choice is like that's your entry car when you get that daily news feed that I'm giving you on the radio or podcast. And then Things Hidden is like the advanced placement class when you want to, all right, I want to go further.
Yeah.
I want to understand these things at a deeper, nerdy level or whatever.
That's awesome. So you kind of piqued my interest. You said I have myths all over. Let's dig into that. I want to hear what you have to think about that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, what draws you? I want to ask you, what draws you to these characters?
You know what? I already like you because you already asked great questions, right? Because that's the things that most people don't know. The reason I get these people is one of a couple of reasons, right? Like the aspect of the hero, right? Mm-hmm. The one that charges in and is there to protect people, right? To be the good, to be the fearless person running forward, right? When everybody's running backwards, like that's what I see in like these heroes, and I want to be somebody like that. Mm-hmm. And what was the second part is oh man, I just lost my train of thought. But no, yeah, like the aspect of the hero and to be able to just do good for people, like that really does appeal to me. Mm-hmm. And so I can relate to these guys that are struggling, right? They're super powerful, or they're cultivating their power, right? Or they're regardless of whatever they're facing, right? Their tenacity helps them overcome, right? Or maybe it's their mental prowess, like Batman, or Goku. He's not smart, but he's super tough. Mm-hmm. And but they're all good. Like that's the common theme that they share. And one thing I love about the heroes too is because like you said, they're myths. But I think in every myth, there's something in the myth that is real, right? So like the personality of the person, right? So maybe that person's not real, but that spirit or that that ideology or that conviction is a real thing, mm-hmm. And I try to share that through these characters.
So what do you like better, DC or Marvel? I'm going to ask you that first.
I'm going to have to say ultimately Marvel.
Okay.
So
why?
They are. Well, I mean, first of all, they just do better with the movies. Like that's just because of all that. But they are very. They're very. I mean, I guess DC is too. They're very team oriented, right? They work well together. But also, I think overall, Marvel just has a very. They have a very consistent power across the board. Like, you have your really powerful people and, your weaker people, but there's a big consistency to that, where I think with them, it's either like you're human or you're ridiculously powerful. You know what I'm saying? And it's there's not a whole lot of middle ground there.
That's true.
So, because you got like Shazam and Superman, they're basically gods. Then you got Batman, who has no powers at all. You got Green Arrow, who has no powers at all. Green Lantern, a god. Wonder Woman, basically a god.
Who's the girl in the blue? I don't remember.
It's blue. That is starts with a Z. Yeah, Zatanna, I think her name is. Yeah, Zatanna.
I thought it was Rice Brand.
So right. Okay. So, but I mean, yeah. So yeah, I think that's a really great question. A lot of people don't ask those questions because the things that we gravitate to, there's a reason for that. And most people don't consider that, the things that you do or the things that you watch and all that stuff consistently over and over and over again. Well, there's something in your mind that makes you gravitate towards that. You appeal to that for some reason. Right. So,
and of course, superhero movies are like the highest grossing movies on than any other movie. Yeah. So obviously most people belong to them.
Yeah, exactly. Or there's something in them. Or like I know a lot of people that love the anti-hero.
Yeah, like Joker. What'd you think of that movie?
That was good. I mean, I liked the Joker. I did. I liked it as a movie, and it was they made it real. You know what I'm saying? Like they made it like, okay, this person could be real. You know, like he has issues and he has all these things going on with in his head, and he's trying to deal with it in some way. And I think that's why that one was very people took it very personal.
Yeah.
Because it felt like it was. You know, so but I mean I liked it. I thought it was a great movie. I thought it was. So what did you think?
I liked it too. It was like it was kind of like a challenge to the original Batman mythology, right? Because it was like, I mean, it's a kind of a spoiler to get into it, but you know.
Well, if you haven't seen it by now, guys, come on.
But it's like, you know, it's like going back to the founding myth of Batman and being like, hey, maybe he wasn't so great after all. Maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe his dad and all this. Maybe these weren't such nice people. Maybe there was another brother, you know, who was not treated right and discarded, and so it was like trying to humanize the devil of Batman. You know, there's the Batman, which is the good guy, and then you got the villain, the monster Joker, and it's like, well, wait a second, how does he become a monster? Maybe he's not as irredeemably evil as we used to think.
Exactly. Yeah, that he
or something, you know.
Like
so you can see their perspective.
Exactly. Like it's like I can see their perspective, and not only that, I could see, you know, I could potentially become like that depending on my choices, my thoughts, my ideologies, and my actions.
Right.
That any one of us could easily just slip down into that. And that it's not just reserved for the worst of the worst, you know, the Hitlers of the world or whatever, because they all started somewhere, right? And it's like you're either going to decline or you're going to incline based on your actions, you know. And it's never you know, just a straight shot either. You're always kind of doing this, but you have an overall direction that you're going with your life. So
yeah, and that's something that we've missed out on in this culture for a little while now, because, you know, I call it the McWoke movement. And the left, you know, that they, and it's not just them, but, you know, there's this desire to try to say that, you know, like that we're not all fallen, that we don't all have the capability of being evil, and that's not correct.
No.
You can't quarantine problems and evil into one category of skin color or gender or religion, you know.
Agreed.
You can't do that. And that's the thing that I wish my friends on the left could understand a little better, is that we're all fallen. We all have that nature that tends to be self-centered if we're not working to rise above it. We all have the proclivity to, just to not do things which are in the best interest of others sometimes, and that's the thing that this cancel culture doesn't understand. You know, is they're always trying to do these virtue signals, these symbolic gestures. To say, hey, look, you know, I give you an example. Like, you know, John Brennan, the former CIA director for Obama, you know, and he was a big opponent of Trump, of course, and forget about whether you think about Trump or not. But, you know, John Brennan was saying, you know, it's so hard for me to be a white male these days. I'm just so ashamed of being a white male. And I was like, what about the unconstitutional drone strikes that you did on U.S. citizens?
Yeah.
What about your surveillance, illegal surveillance of citizens of America? What about torture programs that you signed off on? You're not concerned about the real moral grievances. You're just doing this token symbolic gesture. Oh yeah, I don't like white males. Oh yeah, but you're still doing all the wicked stuff. And at the end of the day, if we go into this ideology and succumb to this, it's going to destroy everything that we all appreciate, including those on the left.
And again, like you said, the ideology of this is, you know, reserved for white men, you know, or black men. Like, evil is not pertain to any color, right? Like, it's in the heart. It's in our thoughts, and it can be a white man, it can be a black man, you know, but it's not reserved for any one specific race, color, you know, ethnicity, or, you know, whatever.
Right.
And they want to make it out to be that,
right?
You know, because usually most of the time when I talk to people, like, I've yet to, you know, find there are other racists out there, but I'm talking like a personal. When you talk to people personally, which is why I respect the conversations with, you know, the left or the right or whoever I'm talking to. If you're willing to actually sit down and think through this and talk with me, you know, even if we don't agree, mad respect, you know, because you're willing to actually take the time and, you know, have these ideas conflict and battle out. And even if it doesn't change either one of us, right, and it's respectful, I mean, there's mad props there, because if you don't want to have that conversation, it just makes you a coward, right? And it doesn't make your thought process any more correct. And so, I mean, mad props to whoever does sit down, you know. And but usually when I sit down with these people, I don't find the racists usually, like most people are not like, yes, every white person should die, or yes, every black person should die. And a lot of times there is a lot of common ground. It's just the way we do things, and I said this on another podcast, is just different, right? Mm-hmm. So like my example was, immigration. I don't think, 90% of people in this country want either the borders to can be completely shut off or to be completely opened, right? But there's a middle ground on both sides. And it's like, okay, what is the process? What does it look like? Mm-hmm. Because I think that the American opportunity should be open for people, right? But not criminals, not drug cartel, not rapists, not people that are going to just bring down and infect our society with evil. Mm-hmm. But this idea of just like, yep, let them in because that's the humane thing to do. Well, okay, then take the door off your house, mm-hmm. right? Allow anybody that wants to walk into your house to walk into your house. Mm-hmm. If that is literally your ideology. Mm-hmm. Because they won't do it.
Or get rid of the gated community that a lot of these leftists live in.
100%, right? You see a lot of hypocritical thoughts in there. Because if you can't do it on a micro level, well, then we probably shouldn't be doing it on a macro level either. Mm-hmm. So,
and I think there should be a way to screen for those who want to use. They're immigrating with the purposes of trying to maximize their access to public services and mm-hmm. goods versus those who are like, no. I'm ready to add value to this community. I'm ready to be a business developer or employee or whatever that would be a hard worker that will add to the community. And I wish there was a way you could screen those for those different options because, I do think if someone intends to move to a territory, mm-hmm. and because it's like, think of this, it's like if you heard that there's a bank robbery going on and you're like, if I show up, I can get a piece of the loot too while it's good. Mm-hmm. And it's like if you show up with that intention of like, I hear they're going to be giving out free healthcare. I hear they're going to be giving out this. I hear they're going to be giving free college. So let me show up and get my hand in line.
Exactly.
You're going to contribute to the confiscation of wealth that a lot of people who are also immigrants or not, who are already here and they don't have a way to opt out, right? Because these taxation things are not voluntary. And so they're being predated by an out-of-control government. And then when you're like, hey, I'm going to add to it, so instead of 10 million people feeding off of this new government program for free college or free healthcare, it's going to be 20 million. How about 30 million? How about 40 million? That's the thing. That's like you said, nobody really wants true open borders. It's like, what if we said, okay, let's have 1 billion people come in this year? Is that good? Can we have 1 billion?
Yeah.
Let's just move 1 billion in.
Exactly.
Is that enough?
No, it would.
How about 500? You know what I mean? It's like where's your line where now you're ethical? And the left doesn't want to talk about that because they always lead with emotion. But that's also why they're the ones who run culture, because culture is all about emotion, it's feelings.
Yes.
And I don't care whether you're a guy or a girl, human beings are moved by emotion. They're moved by their stories. These myths.
Yes.
And that's what's really moving people at their heart. And the right, I don't agree, this whole mantra about facts don't care about your feelings. I mean, look, there's something to that, but there's also the opposite, which is that you can tell the truth in a way that creates goosebumps, and we should do that. Because we're losing the culture because all the people who know how to tell good emotional stories are doing it in the service of bad outcomes, bad solutions.
Right? And I 100% agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, why Joker? I mean, that's probably made by someone. You got. I don't really remember who the people are behind that, but they probably don't have the worldview that we would think is the best for America. But hey, look how powerful and emotionally gripping their movies are.
Exactly. And people, it's like you said, people think with emotion, and we're not on the emotional spectrum, I guess you could say, like the right isn't, and they're very logical. But I do think, like you said, we need a mixture of both.
Right.
Like if it's all logical, well, you're a robot, right? And if it's all emotion, well, then you're a child. So like it's like you got to find that middle ground. Like yes, the reason we get angry is because of injustice. So like you use that anger to be able to fight injustice or to fight corruption, right? But when you're using anger, right? I mean, that's why I believe God has given us anger, is because, okay, I'm angry because something has been wrong. I need to use this to be able to find a way to make it right. Destroying, doing $3 billion worth of damages in, cities because you're upset, and those aren't even the people that have hurt you. Well, now you're just doubling down on the damage, So it's, again, using that logic and that emotion. Okay, I need to be able to target the right person and do this in the right way, but I need to actually do it because this can't continue. So,
and you think about the average kid who gets drawn into these ideologies like Antifa and anarcho-communists, these people, and you can see how they move in that direction because for whatever reason, life didn't work out the way they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
They're working a job where they feel like it's not maximizing their talent. The management's corrupt or incompetent, and they feel like I could do a better job than my manager.
Yep.
And so they get this resentment that builds up. And they feel like the government, they feel like, well, the government too, but mostly that the whole society is structured against them. And they go to college classes. And they hear these six-figure rich professors tell them about how it's all capitalism, patriarchy, and so forth, Christianity. And so they say, all right, well, down with Christianity, down with fathers, and down with markets. And so they say, hey, burn the whole thing down, just like Joker did. I want to be like that. That's cool now. And so, but look what you do. You make something, right? So you don't stay static where you're at. But they don't believe in that. They don't. A lot of folks don't, and for whatever reason, maybe they don't have the talents, but I doubt that. I think we really underrate the average person's talents to create their own business, to create their own success. And this is how you channel your resentment. Every time you go to a job, you feel like they're not taking your talents into full consideration. You channel it into this.
And I will say, I agree. Like people do suck, and this is why, like on almost every podcast, I always tell people just to love each other, because like we all suck, we all fail, like we all fall often, and we make mistakes. And I think that a part of the reason is because people do feel unappreciated. Now, does that give you the right to go do certain things that you go do? No, not necessarily. But I do agree, that. People are wrong a lot. Like, right and left, like these stupid conversations of just, belittling each other all the time. Even if you're right, like, it doesn't matter. If it's coming from a place that's not of love, like, hey, I'm just doing this because I want to make society better. I want to be able to bridge the gap of our ideologies, that we can find some common ground that will benefit both of us. Because if we don't get there, we're going to end up to a place where we both don't want to be, and that's at war and odds with each other. Because two extremely different ideologies, can't exist if there's no, peace or some type of thing that bonds them. If there's no bonding there, then one's just going to overtake the other eventually.
So what binds us together today? That's a good question. What do you think binds us together? Generally speaking, like what people... Not what should bind us together or whatever, but just what do you see around you that unites people?
There's honestly not a whole lot, we've become so divisive, right, left, conservative, liberals. By the
way, do you see it in your community here in this local area? Do you see the division?
Yes, of course, there's always division. I think our especially Florida and, in Polk County, like I think for all of our faults, we actually do pretty well, because I think people respect each other enough to not be so attacking to each other, if that makes sense. Because like I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and all that stuff, and with those guys, there's a lot of people that believe completely different things than I do. But we have Jiu-Jitsu as a common bond,
right.
And like we're friends and all that stuff, and we might talk about it sometimes or whatever, but we both have that love and respect for each other because of something else that has binded us, and so like a lot of them, like I'll have like game nights and parties and all that stuff, and we'll be able to talk, and but because we have that foundation of a love and mutual respect.
When you beat one of your opponents, do you leave a little Bible tract?
Yeah, right. There you go. Yeah, exactly. There you go, buddy. No, but again, I would say, because I think that is actually a good point, is. Especially with me, like as a Christian, I always try to put love first. I think truth needs to be right behind it, for sure. But I think if things aren't done in love, then it shouldn't even be done at all, in my opinion.
Right, yeah. That should be what binds us together.
Exactly, right? It should be the love.
So let me ask you about the martial arts. So why do you think people are gravitating to martial arts and this kind of thing so much? It's really popular.
It is, yeah. Especially Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is getting huge.
Why is it so big? What do you think binds people together to watch that?
Well, it's like anything else. Like especially church and all that stuff. A lot of these things are just for a lot of people social events. Just something to do, to be able to meet people, to be able to have that sense of community.
Yeah.
That's one reason. Then you have the other people who are very good at what they do, and they become fighters, and then it becomes a career for them. You have. All different reasons. Like, like there's a lot of different reasons. Some just for, maintaining fitness and all that stuff. I'm not like the fighter, but I try to maintain fitness and, and again, sense of community. Like, that's the major reason. I've debated if I want to get into the cage. I've competed once before in jiu-jitsu, but like we have like MMA fighters there too, and I'll do MMA classes from time to time. And
what distinguishes the two, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
So Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is all on the ground,
right?
Ground and throws. Some judo's kind of mixed in there as well. But MMA is mixed martial arts. So it could be Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu's involved and judo's involved. But it could be Muay Thai's involved. Kickboxing. Boxing, all that stuff. So it's just it's literally everything. So that's actually something you could use very efficiently. I mean, you can use Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu too very efficiently on the streets. But the MMA is just all of it.
Right.
So,
and what do you think? Do you think that people are turning to these things because they need to relieve tension from the stress of this?
I think it
stressful
helps.
Environment.
Yeah, I think that it definitely helps because especially when COVID hit, and we all so many people were just like it's almost like a drug addiction. Like we need to get back on the mat,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that all that exercise, jiu-jitsu, martial arts, like weightlifting, all that stuff, like it does. And I think that's another thing too, because I think as a society we're very unhealthy in more ways than one.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're not fit. We're not. There's a lot of stupid crap in our food that they put. Preservatives.
Seed oils are terrible. Watch out for the vegetable oils. I get into that on the show a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Like all that stuff. And I think and that's the thing is you can't pinpoint it all on one exact thing.
Yeah.
But it's this combination of things that's just detrimental to our society.
Mm-hmm. And it's affecting our mental health too. A lot of these foods are, if you get rid of these bad foods, people's depression. I've had a person on my show, Dr. Chris Palmer, Harvard psychiatrist, who is he's clinically treating patients for schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, depression, using ketogenic diet, ketosis, getting people into ketosis and getting them off the sugar, carbs, and seed oils and stuff like that. And within a few months, some of these people are saying, "Doctor, I don't hear my voices in my head anymore." It's like, whoa, how many people are going around? You look at people, who are in Antifa or these white extremist groups or whatever, and you think, how many people are suffering because of poor nutrition?
Yeah.
And, they're not getting the minerals they need. They're not eating ancestrally. They're not eating meat. Now they want to ban meat, and we don't need to ban meat. They want us to go, Bill Gates said we want to go to 100% no meat, synthetic meat.
Yeah.
We don't need that. We need real meat. We need the people eating ribeyes. And I just tell people a ribeye a day keeps the doctor away.
Yep.
That's important.
Yep.
And we need to promote that kind of ancestral approach, right?
Yeah.
And the Bible says the fat is the Lord's, right? And so the ancient communities treasured fattened animals, and now we're supposed to demonize those things. But there's vitamins in there that are in meat.
Yep.
We are programmed to think only veggies are good. In fact, some veggies are bad for you. Some veggies have oxalates and lectins. They have toxins in them because think about it, a plant that can't move.
No.
So a plant can't move. A cow can run away from you if you try to kill it. But a plant is stuck in the ground. So how's it going to defend itself? It's going to put in things in its stems and leaves that is going to try to deter you from wanting to eat it so much. That's how they exist to this day. That's how, if they were just, think about the average person, the way they think of vegetables. Pure nutrition. Well, if that's the case, then why are they still here? Because animals would have eaten them out of existence a long time ago. Because they're like, this is nothing but a meal.
Yeah.
So they obviously put things in there like oxalates, which binds up and can cause a lot of inflammation and problems in the body. Lectins, which creates holes in your gut when you eat them, and then that eventually can cause leaky gut syndrome and other problems. And they can actually bind to your minerals that you're eating and deprive you of minerals. So this would deter an animal from going hog wild on it because it's like, no, let's go something else.
Yeah.
And so that's their evolutionary way of adapting and surviving. Or thorns, but not everybody has thorns. And so that's why you have that. But that's just something that you get here, people vilifying meat all the time, red meat especially. But it's not true. It's not a bad thing. There are essential fats and proteins. There are essential things that we need that are in meat, and yet people are not getting the right nutrition. And that's what I think a lot of folks who are angry all the time. If they would correct their diet, and I'm not a diet expert. All I know is the things that I've done in my life has significantly made my life better when I've corrected just a few things. And it's not just one thing. It's just a couple things. You change, your mindset's clear, your sleep is better, you don't snore at night, which is good if you have a married partner. So that's helpful. But those are little things you can do to make your life better. and even having posture. Step.
Dude, I gotta work on that.
That's right. I'm bowling into this microphone.
Yeah,
but you know what I mean. It's good to have that because when you feel good, when you put your shoulders back, you feel good. And how many Antifa kids out there looking like Ninja Turtle Foot Clan soldiers have ever put their shoulders back? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're just hunched over and going around hitting people with a bike lock. You can't do that, or a skateboard.
Yeah.
That's because they're living in a mental prison. And the right has those people too, but the point is we've got to be able to come together. You got to have these kitchen table conversations like we're having right now.
Yep. Yeah.
And have them with everybody.
I know whenever because every so often, like probably 2 or 3 times a year, I'll do like a detox, right, where I just take 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how I feel like I need. And like I won't eat like I'll because I think everything needs to be in moderation. Like I think meat is essential. I think vegetables are essential. I think a lot of different things are essential to maintaining a healthy life. And I think because our liver processes all this stuff, and and I think sometimes just drinking water and being very light on what you eat, or if you eat anything like fasting or something like that, I think that can be great for the body. And I know like when I do that stuff, like literally it's almost like there's a fog in your head and then it just like clears up. You're like, oh wow, I didn't even know that I needed that, and your body just responds in a great way. But unfortunately, it's like we're always so busy. We're eating all this fast food, right? We want things that are quick, convenient, and all that stuff. And that honestly, convenience is killing us. Like it is tremendously.
The seed oils in my research on my program, you can go on our website, neighborschoice.com, and look up Tucker Goodrich, my interview with him. We're going to have another one that's coming out soon.
Nice.
And he's a nutritional expert, and we have others on like him. But he shows the seed oils are really the biggest problem, and it's not even carbs and sugar. Carbs and sugar are actually secondary. The real killer that's killing everybody is seed oils because they introduce vegetable oil. See, when people think of vegetable oils, they're like, what do? Take like a broccoli and squeeze the heck out of it? And how did you get oil out of it? It's like, no, it comes from seeds.
Yeah,
seeds do not want to be eaten. That's their baby.
Yeah.
So they put all their biggest defense that I was talking about. Plants put it all on the seed. That's their baby. And so, but what we've done is we've put something that was never supposed to be in our body, like the rate we're doing it, and we've introduced it into our body. Starting in 1860s, they created cottonseed oil. Cottonseed oil was a byproduct of the cotton that they were producing. And what happened was they're like, hey, if we take this element out of it, it's actually edible. It's not toxic anymore. And they started feeding it to livestock as a cheap filler for food. And they're like, hey, we can actually sell this to humans. And so eventually, that's the first seed oils in the 1860s. No one had ever done this before.
Yeah.
And so, but it didn't catch on really yet because it was considered shameful because a lot of people were adding it to butter to save money on the production of butter because butter costs a lot more to make than this cottonseed oil. It's an industrial waste product.
Okay. And
that eventually became margarine. It became what we were telling everybody, Grandma, get off the butter and get on to margarine.
Wow.
And so everybody, if you look, so think about this for a second. Why is it that, people in George Washington's time, they had apple pie.
Yeah.
I mean, they had butter in there, they had flour, they had apples, and people could say, yeah, they were walking more, but some of them were not as walking as much, and there still wasn't the rate of obesity, there wasn't the rate of cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, all the diseases that afflict us today. They didn't have that.
Yeah.
What was missing there? They didn't have seed oils.
Yeah.
They had the sugar, they had the flour. They didn't have. There's also other things, But if you look at the primary massive amount of our consumption, because you could say, well, there's obviously like additives and industrial products they put in all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
So that's a problem too.
Yep.
But think about like in terms of a caloric part of your body, how much of your body how much of your diet every day is consuming seed oils.
Yeah.
It's in every fried good. Most fried foods, like French fries, they used to fry them in beef fat. Now they fry them in vegetable oil. It's in the chicken that you eat. Chicken that's eating soy and corn, they have a monogastric stomach. They have one chamber. So they can't process it, so they store the seed oil, the corn and the soy, as fat in their body. So it has just as much seed oil content as vegetable oil in a container. Pork is a monogastric animal that also is fed corn and soy, and therefore it stores it as that toxic seed oil. And so every time you're eating fatty chicken and pork, or you're eating nuts that are roasted in canola oil, that's a vegetable oil, that's bad for you. Soybean oil, it's in mayonnaise. Every time you get a sandwich, It's in there. And that stuff was never supposed to be consumed by humans. It was introduced in 1866, and then it takes off in the 20th century. It takes off, and they start vilifying animal. That's how they got it in. They started vilifying animal fats. They started attacking beef fat, butter, that kind of stuff, vilifying it. And so all these big shots started pushing vegetable oils, replace your butter with margarine. And so we did, and guess what? The obesity skyrocketed. And the cancer skyrocketed. Diabetes skyrocketed. Alzheimer's. I mean, you go back and look at medical journals in America, because America gets a lot of heat for being so overweight and sick.
Yep.
But you go back and look in the 1800s, you will not see many cases at all of heart disease, and they were eating sugar, they were eating fat.
Interesting.
But they weren't eating vegetable oil. The vegetable oil is this industrial waste product that we have put into almost every food because it's so cheap. Every time you go to a restaurant and they fry eggs, they'll spray down Pam, throw on the eggs. And the eggs got seed oils in them too because they're fed the chicken and corn.
Yeah.
So you're getting multiple layers of that. You think you're being keto because you're eating chicken wings at your average shop, and they're frying those chicken wings in the vegetable oil, the soybean oil, and then the skin has the vegetable oil in it too because it's fed. So you're getting all these seed oils in it, and they store in your body, and they cause mutagenic effects on your DNA. And they actually are the things that trigger so much of the carb and sugar cravings. Mm-hmm. So you say to yourself, why is it that all these lower income communities in America, why is there such a prevalence of overweight?
Yeah.
And why is there such a prevalence of disease? Why are they dying at younger ages? Why are lower income Americans of all backgrounds having a worse effect with COVID?
Wow.
And the reason why is because they have the higher consumption of seed oils and vegetable oils, because they're the ones that are eating more of the processed foods because it's cheaper.
Yep.
You go get potato chips, seed oils in it. You go get, chicken nuggets, seed oils in it. You go get pizza. They take the pizza most places and they don't base it in real butter. They base it in soybean oil. Soybean oil associated with mental retardation in a new study they just came out with, that it slows the brain down.
Wow.
And so you're getting all this stuff in your food, and it's literally, to eat the healthy foods, the organic produce, the organic, healthy meats, that's expensive.
Wow.
And so that's why there's a stigma that if you're overweight, you're like in a lower class. Mm-hmm. And that's why everybody wants to be super thin, because it's like that's fashionable because that's what the rich do.
Yeah.
Because the rich can afford to eat the foods that are not cooked in seed oils. They go to the fine restaurants where they cook things in butter. Most restaurants that you go to around here, when you're getting bread with butter, that butter is mixed with canola oil or some other seed oil. And that stuff is what's storing in our body. Our body doesn't know how to register it. It sees it as a toxin, but it stores it because it doesn't know how to process it. It doesn't know how to deal with it.
Wow.
And so that's what's causing the mutagenic effect. It's like eating a pack of French fries. It's not the potato that's the problem. It's the oils that they're fried in. And that's like smoking a pack of cigarettes almost. It's terrible because it has a long-term buildup effect.
Wow.
Yeah. And so cows are one of the few animals that they have multiple chambers. Mm-hmm. So when they eat their corn and soy, which you don't really want to feed that to a cow, but most beef is fed that way. When they eat that, their multiple chambers in their stomach pull that out and store it as a healthy saturated fat, as a natural fat. So beef is one of the few things that you can eat in the meat family in most supermarkets that's not going to get you. Lamb's okay, goat's okay, some fish are okay, some dairy's good and stuff like that. But avoiding those seed oils is a huge quick fix that will do it's an easy fix is what I'm saying. Because a lot of people are like, don't tell me I can never have carbs again.
Yeah, no.
So you can have a bowl of white rice and some nice tasty steak with a butter and be healthy. Yeah. Because you're not eating the seed oils. The seed oils is the number one low-hanging fruit. Take that out of your life, and you can really transform your mindset. Your mentality will improve, a lot of stuff.
So I guess I have a question is, so in the UK, because obviously they're a lot thinner than we are on average, do they do a lot of stuff like that as well? Like, do they not have like seed oils in their food?
They're having a skyrocketing obesity epidemic too in the UK.
Are they?
But France is an example to look at. France, for the longest time, they were like, why is it that they eat croissants and butter and they're skinny as can be? Yeah. It's because it's butter.
It's real
Croissant is made with real butter, and the butter they put on it is real. It's fine for you. Your body actually, when you eat butter, it has fats in it that actually promote a healthy fast metabolism. It actually promotes the burning of belly fat when you eat butter consistently.
Wow.
I mean, there's just things that I've been picking up along the way with these experts. I'm not the expert.
Yeah.
It's the people I have on the program.
Yeah.
One of the things when you're doing a radio show every day, it's like you get to interact with these world-class, scientists. If you reach out to them, and
Wow.
I've spent time reaching out to these scientists, saying, "Hey, tell me this problem," because it's something I've struggled with. I did keto for the longest time, and I was doing wonderful with it, fit, But then I noticed, like, wait a second, why is it diminishing returns as I get older?
Wow.
It is because I had been eating seed oils all this time. I'd go be like, hey, I'm doing keto, I'm not eating carbs. But then I'd go to, get like chicken wings and you dip it in the ranch dressing. That's the soybean oil. And then the chicken skin, soybean oil or corn, whatever they're feeding the chicken. And then, so you're like, so that was causing the keto diet to not work as effectively for me as it did when I was young. When I was in college and high school. I was doing great with it. And so so for me, it was skin in the game that got me to figure out what I was like. It's like a detective.
Yeah.
I had to go back and say, okay, what am I doing wrong here? Because I'm doing what I did when I was in high school and college. It's just that it doesn't affect you as much when you're younger.
Yeah.
Because it takes time to build up. Just like when you could smoke cigarettes when you're young for
Yeah.
years until it builds up into problems.
Yeah.
And so that's what's going on. That's why we have this obesity epidemic. You go and look at countries. There are countries that eat tons of sugar.
Yeah.
And there's no obesity in anybody in these ancestral cultures. You go look in the Pacific Islands. You go look into Africa, the Hadza tribe. They eat honey all the time and raw meat. They're very ancestrally old school, and they've been living that way for a long time. They don't have cavities. That I'm aware of. They don't have obesity. They don't have cancer. They don't have Alzheimer's. They don't have Parkinson's. They don't have these diseases that we just assume we got to live with. This is just the reality. Why?
Yeah.
But the countries that adopt our diet. So UK, they were doing better, and France was doing better than we were, but they started to slowly adopt the seed oils and replace their butter, and replace and the foods that they were feeding their animals too.
Wow.
See what I mean? Because a lot of people are like, all right, I'm not cooking with seed oils, but you're still eating chicken all the time.
Yeah.
And you're getting a big dose of it, another big dose.
Now, is that like the same thing with the meat at the store? So like if you went to like Walmart, Publix, and I just got a pack of like chicken legs or something, it would be the same thing as?
It's all in there, yeah. It's a bad news for some people, but if you get the white meat, if you get the white breast meat without the fat, that won't happen. People don't like that. They like the crispy, fatty chicken, usually dark meat. But if you get like the white meat without the fat on it, then that's going to be just protein. So that's safe. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And what you could do is you could take beef tallow. You can order beef tallow, beef fat, or coconut oil. That's a healthy fat, because that's not a seed oil. That comes from the actual fat in the coconut.
Yeah.
And so when you take that, I guess it is technically a seed oil, but for whatever reason, it doesn't. It's natural in the way you process the fat out of it. If you crack open a coconut and bite it, you can taste the fat. The way they make vegetable oils, you have to use an industrial process that pulls it out. Mm-hmm. It's like a very complicated process.
Wow.
It's not anything our ancestors would have ever eaten. They never had access to it. The only time you would have what's called seed oils in nature would be like if you accessed literal seeds while you're eating fruit, or nuts, like cashews and stuff. But that was so rare. Yeah. And it was such small, low quantities that it didn't have the effect that our situation has today.
Well, you blew my mind today on that.
It's a healthy thing, because we got to look for things. Look, I'm passionate about it because I think it's an easy thing to be aware of in your life.
Yeah. That
can improve your health, your parents' health, your grandparents' health. And it can improve your mental situation. There's a lot of benefit from getting these kind of non-healthy things out of our life, and feeling that ownership of your body, that I don't have to live in ignorance.
Yeah.
And you can still, like I said, you can enjoy. The good news about this is that you can enjoy delicious food. Mm-hmm. If you like crab legs with butter, you're going to have a good time. You're not going to feel like you're dieting eating that. You know what I mean? If you like, having a steak with white rice, that's and vegetables and stuff. You can enjoy a good, robust life. Sweet potato, organic sweet potato. Enjoying those things are meant for you. You're meant to have delight.
Yeah.
You can have ice cream. There's some ice creams that don't have any seed oils in them. A lot of them do.
Yeah.
You check the labels on these things. Some brand will have like canola oil, soybean oil, like first thing. You're like, oh, wow. And then others, they're just cream, sugar. You know what I mean? So the point is, and if you have a lot of health issues, you may need to get off the sugar for a while too. I'm not advocating people to load up on sugar, but sugar really is a secondary effect. Yeah. Everybody's been thinking that sugar was the main killer. It's like a murder scene. Somebody's been murdered. Unfortunately, there's been a crime scene. And the question is, who was the one that did it, and who was the accessory to the murder? Yeah. And we always thought it was the carb and the sugar guy. Yeah. It turns out he's the assistant. He's the accessory. It's actually, there's the real villain is this vegetable oil that nobody saw coming. They always thought, because we have this bias against meat, because we're so sensitive, we're so concerned about. And we should be concerned about the welfare of animals. Yeah. But it's turned into this cultural phenomenon where like Western cultures are like ashamed to eat meat, and so we like bias our conclusions about nutrition. Like, oh yeah, animal fat's bad. Well, maybe it's not. Yeah. Maybe we need to treat our animals better with the way we raise them, but actually it's not that. Maybe that's what we were built on.
Well, I know we load our animals up with a lot of steroids and stuff like that too, which is not good. Which forces their growth. Yeah. Yeah, man, there's just so much messed up on our country too. Like our food, our ideologies, like it's insane. Yeah, it's insane. It's not going to end well.
But all it goes back to go back to what you were saying with these myths, it goes back to a story. Yeah. If we want to get out of this mess, we can learn about facts like seed oils and things like that. Those are extremely important. But we have to have myths. We have to write the right story. That binds us together. You kept talking about binding us together. Yep. When you say that word bind us together, that's important. Yep. Because that's what the word religion means. Yep. The word religion in the Latin, the original Latin root for the word religion, is to bind together. That's what it means. Yeah. So when you say religion in the old sense of it, today when we think of religion, we think of, oh, you're talking about there's a God or something. No. At the fundamental level, religion was what bound us together. Yep. Yeah. The gods and stuff was part of that, but it was more about what it did for us. It bound us together. So when we talk about what binds us together, what we're saying is, what's the story that unites us? Because human beings are story-driven creatures. Yeah, we are story. That's all we are. Yep. We live and breathe and eat and drink story.
Yep, and that's why Jesus was so successful back in his day, because he taught in stories, and people could just eat that right up. And I'm gonna go on a rant for just a second, because when you said the word religion, it made me remember this. I saw this guy post on Facebook that I think it might have been today or yesterday. He's just like, what good has religion done for us, except cause war and, division and, the killing and mass murders of all people and religion's name and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, dude, you just do not know, especially like, so even just, let's take my religion, Christianity. It even specifically says true religion is this, that you will take care of the orphans and the widows in their distress. Like, okay, so raise your hand if you think that's bad. No, that's not bad. If that's what true religion is in the art of Christianity, right. And then you take Jesus and loving one another. Yes, of course you're gonna have people going crazy, and you have people taking stuff that's supposed to be something that binds us together, and is just gonna tear it apart and use it to oppress people. Like the true nature of, like you said, like religion, which religion does get a bad rap, and to a degree I understand it, but it was meant to be this, not only love, but like a standard. Like, all right, this is our standard of living, right? And if you, don't kill, don't murder, don't steal, don't, do all these different things, honor your father and mother, these are not bad things. It's like, okay, which one of those that I just quoted do you have a problem with? What, you want to be dishonorable to your father and mother? You want to be able to kill? You want to be able to, steal things from your neighbor, to covet from your neighbor? Like, it's like, no, these are all great things, right, yeah. And if this is all something that we can, agree upon, like, hey, this is a good way to live, well, then we will have a binding, we will have unity, we will have, love and all that stuff. And yes, even within that context, there can still be grace, because people do mess up, Now, obviously some of those are, big. Like, if I stole like $5 from you and I was just like, hey, I'm sorry, I really needed it because, A, B, C, D, and as long as, I don't do things to make it worse, because it's like we said earlier, like people make their decisions, and it's either you're declining or you're going up. And if you're just going to pursue that life of theft, as my example, well then, okay, now we really do have a problem, because you don't want to turn, right? Which is another thing that Jesus always preached, was repentance, right? Turn from your wicked ways, right? Which is not a bad thing, and he's like, just repent, be obedient, and people see obedience as this thing of just, oh, he just wants to control me. No, he wants to create unity because we kill each other and we hurt each other and we lie to each other and we oppress each other, and this whole my way or the highway, everything is subjective attitude is going to kill all of us. And so that's my rant. But you know what I'm saying?
No, I agree with you. That's a great direction to go with the conversation, because that's what I think we need to hear about the most, which is we have to find a story that we can all come together around. And we may have different religion, we may have different ideologies. We may have different race, different age group, different income level, different region, but we can all come together around a story that we're all united around. And I think Christianity is the best story that we have going for us.
Yeah, I agree.
It's because it's true, and it cuts like a knife, and it destroys all the bad religions. So I think Christianity is the end of religion. It's the epic end of religion, and it replaces religion. And it does allow us to be bound together. But remember what Jesus said. He said, I've come to bring a sword to cut. So what's he cutting? He's cutting the false unity. He's cutting that false binding together that all the false religions, including political ideology, because I think the state is ultimately a kind of religion too.
Yeah, I agree.
You think about the state, they've got the pomp and circumstance. They got, you heard what Nancy Pelosi said when they had that bad riot on January 6th. She said, "You have desecrated my temple."
I was there.
This is my temple. You were there.
I was there.
What happened? What did you see there?
Well, first off, I was dressed as Captain America. Just want to throw that out there.
Oh, were you really?
Yeah, I really was. Yeah. And but I mean, when I was there, and I actually have a whole podcast, you can go listen to it on it about the entire thing. But it was peaceful. It was very peaceful, and it was very, there was people out there preaching the gospel about Jesus. There was, and my dad every time.
Did you see the people go into the Capitol actually?
So,
or were you far back?
I was far back. I was probably a good couple football fields away from the front door of the Capitol, and nothing was going on when I was hanging out. Like I hung out until about 2:30, 3 o'clock, somewhere in there, and it was really cold. It was like the 40s. So like at that point, me and my dad and my stepmom, we were all there together. We were just like, well, I guess they're gonna just kind of count and all that stuff, the votes, and we're just gonna kind of get out and and then go turn on the TV, see what the numbers were. The people that showed up. And the only thing that was just kind of odd as I was leaving, right, is I did see lines of people kind of going towards the Capitol, and they're like, "Hey, Captain America, the fight's that way," right? And I'm just like, okay, I didn't take it as anything because there was no gunshots, there was no things on fire or loud sounds for me to draw any type of conclusion that anything was going down. And then after that, I was, we went back. I drove back to our hotel and turned the thing on. It was like we stepped into the Twilight Zone. Like it was just like, oh, okay, now we have an insurrection, and I'm a right-wing white terrorist. Wow. So, what I'm saying, so. But of course, I had no part in that. I wouldn't have done that. If anything, I told my dad. I said, look, I was like, honestly, I wish I would have known that was going on, because I probably would have done the opposite and gone to the front and say, like, what the hell are you guys doing? You're literally, I don't agree with the Black Lives Matter, destroying and doing $3 billion worth of damages and murdering. It was like 40-something people over the summer. I don't approve of you guys smashing the building and trying to get in, and just being hooligans, because it's not going to solve anything. Yeah. And we're not even at that point of, war yet, not in my opinion. I mean, I think that there is, a point where two people can't live together. I don't think we're there yet. And I think that's why I think stuff like this is very important, because we need to talk about it. We need to find some compromises, because if all you think of me as a right-wing white terrorist, and you want to act upon that, we have a problem, and it has nothing to do with me, because I don't see you as a bad person, unless you want to kill me or you take my job or, take my livelihood or, my ability to work and provide my family. If I can't do that, then we do have a problem, So,
but Nancy Pelosi calls the Capitol a temple, and the question I ask is, what happens in a temple? A temple's where sacrifice happens. So that's her sacred temple, where they decide who they're going to sacrifice, who they're going to put in a cage where they could be assaulted for a nonviolent crime. Victim was that. They use that as a temple to go off to war. We're going to bomb this country and not bomb that country. We're going to destroy this country and send them into chaos, but this one we're going to give foreign aid to. Yeah. So that's a temple. It's a religion. Yeah. That's just like Caiaphas's temple. They all have their own religion. The Romans had their religion. Yeah. And so we think of the state, we're like, oh, we have to have separation of church and state. It's like, no, That's redundant.
Mm-hmm.
The state is itself a kind of religion, and it demands to be worshipped.
Yep.
It demands worship, and that's part. And we need to understand that as Christians. And that doesn't mean we oppose the state. No, you have to love your neighbor, including those who are in the state, and care for your neighbor and see your neighbor as yourself.
Yep.
But at the same time, you got to recognize that it is a different religion. It's just like if you had a friend who was a Buddhist,
Yep.
you wouldn't be like, oh, no, you're a Christian. It's like, no, I'm a Buddhist. So I'm still going to love you as my friend, but you have a different religion.
Yep.
The state is a different religion than Christianity.
Yep.
The state says it is better that one dies than the whole nation perish. That's actually from Caiaphas, but that's the mantra of the state.
Yeah.
The government says it's better that one man die than the whole nation perish. It's better that you get thrown into a prison cage for a nonviolent choice than the whole world fall apart if we allow you to do what you were going to do.
Yeah.
It's better that we go to bomb this country. You remember Hillary Clinton? She was laughing when they said, we came, we saw, he died. About Gaddafi getting butchered in the streets. Now, was he a bad dude? Yes. But why did McCain and Clinton and all those guys give him so much money for so long?
Yeah.
They were propping him up like mafia. Hey, you're going to be our guy in Libya. Now you've served your time too long, taking you out. Hit. They do that they did that in Syria. You know, in Libya, they unleashed 2 to 3 million people into slavery to this day.
Wow.
And Barack Obama's got a Netflix special.
Yeah.
Why don't we make a Netflix special with Barack Obama and Michelle Obama narrating that slave trade that they unleashed in Libya? They unleashed that, and they don't get any accountability for it because the media covers up that stuff.
Yeah.
Because why? They sacrifice some for the greater good. The greater good for who?
Yeah.
For the banks, the corporations, the people who make money off of these perpetual wars. And it's all about creating chaos. They go over to Assad, and they get us to try to hate Assad. Assad's a bad dude. Why is John Kerry having dinner with Assad a few years ago with his wife?
Yeah.
Why? See, these guys are like mafia.
Yep.
That's how they act, but they want to act like they're Mickey Mouse.
Yep.
Hiya, folks. I'm just here to take care of you. I'm a public servant.
Yep.
Wait a second. No. We're not doing that. That's wrong.
Yep.
That's why the world has turned their back on America, because America's turned its back on its founding. The founder said, we don't go abroad in search of a monster to destroy. You know what I mean? We need to have, non-intervention.
Yep.
But we become an empire, or a wannabe empire, where we go around and create these regime change wars, and what happens? Soldiers come back with PTSD. They come back shell-shocked, like they used to call it.
Yep.
And they come back with moral trauma. They come back with moral damage. We have people on my show all the time. Sergeant Dan McKnight, Colonel Douglas McGregor, Lieutenant Colonel Danny Davis, Lieutenant Danny Shorts, and all these different folks, these veterans who serve over these wars, and they understand that these things have no mission, they have no constitutionality. It's there for special interests, because you make $1 trillion a year off of foreign policy.
Wow.
We spend $1 trillion a year. Now think about it. Have you ever gone down to like the local county when they're having a dispute about building a new road? There's a lot of money in that little road for a small little cutoff road or something.
Yeah.
Imagine how much more money hands are involved with $1 trillion foreign policy every year.
You're not lying.
I mean, the stakes of that's going to bring out the corruption. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely, right? And so that's, again, we have lost our way because we don't believe in the story. And I think the story is Jesus. I think you pointed it out.
Yep.
That Jesus is the story that transforms the world. And that's something that we can all get behind. Because his story is what makes us great. His story is what allowed us to create hospitals.
Yep.
People like Donald Trump, because he's got his name on hotels. Jesus invented hospitals with his inspiration.
Yeah, he did. And most people don't know that.
Yeah.
Most people, because I was going to actually hit that too as well. Like the same guy that was the religion, I'm like, you don't even know that people created hospitals because of that. That in the Roman times, that hospitalization was only for those that were rich and only those that fought in war, soldiers, right? But the Christians and the disciples and all those that followed Jesus, they said, hey, we got to start taking care of the orphans and the widows and all, the sick and all that stuff. And they came together and they made what we know now as hospitals.
We know what happened to orphans in the Roman Empire. It's a horrible thing.
Yeah.
Babies, you'd be walking down the road right now. You drive in a peaceful place. This is built because of Jesus' impact in history. We don't understand it. No. When you would walk down before in a Roman road, you would see a baby crying, left alone, abandoned, screaming, and you can't do nothing. You just keep on going because that's the Roman way. That was the way it was all over the world.
Yeah.
You would see fields of people crucified, suffocating in their own lungs.
Yep.
And you'd be like, oh, okay, we're here. Honey, we're here. We made it. GPS says we've arrived. Here, look at that. A field of people with birds pecking out their eyes, intestines, and stuff. Welcome to Rome. Welcome to the world that Jesus saved you from.
Yeah.
They used to sacrifice people down, all over the place. Let me tell you a story about that. So when Jesus is going into the Jerusalem, and you see that story where he goes in there, and they call him, hey, you're the chosen one. Hosanna, Hosanna, you're the hero. They're basically, it's akin to saying, like the Matrix, you're the one we've been looking for.
Yeah.
That's where they're getting it. The Matrix, all the movies you love, they get it from Jesus.
Exactly. Yeah.
Star Wars, Avengers,
Yep.
Batman, it's all Christ figures because Jesus is the ultimate myth that they're all trying to imitate.
Yep.
He's the true myth. They're the imitators.
Yep.
But he comes into the story. He rides on a donkey. He's making fun of their expectation because you would think a man would ride on a big steed if he's going to be a hero, and he's making fun of they want violence. They want Rome to get its tail kicked.
Yep.
Because Rome is going corrupt.
The conquering king. That's what they wanted.
And he came in on a donkey, making fun of their expectation.
Yep.
And they say, "Hey, tell your people to be quiet." Right? And what does he say? He says, when they are silent, the stones will cry out.
Yep.
Now, when you hear that in traditional Sunday school, you think like Jesus being cute there. He's talking like the rocks will start singing. Hello! Like some kind of psychedelic thing or something weird, like Zippity Doo-Dah. Remember that old cartoon with the flowers are singing? You're like, what? So Jesus basically showing off, like, I'm Hercules, I'll make the stones sing if you tell them to be quiet. Like, that's the way we think of God. That's not what he's doing. No. What he's doing is he's quoting Habakkuk chapter 2. Habakkuk was a prophet. He was a man who was prefiguring the arrival of Jesus, the true hero. And what did Habakkuk say? He was challenging a king of his time. He said, woe to you who founds the city on bloodshed. For the stones cry out that you have founded your city on bloodshed. And that it's corrupt. Your whole foundation is corrupt. Now that's interesting. What's crying out in the stones? All over the world, it turns out, we have seen in modern archaeology that underneath what they would call the cornerstone of every new city in the ancient world, every new river bridge, a new temple, they would lay a first stone. It was called the cornerstone. Yep. And what would they put there? They would put live victims as sacrifices for the inauguration of a new city, of a new town, a new river, a new temple. They would put a human sacrifice. Sometimes it was animals, but usually it was humans. Sometimes they're dead, sometimes they're alive. And or in some cases in the ancient world, they would put a mother inside of the wall and then entomb them with the stones bit by bit. One lady was chosen, but she was a wife of one of the kings. But she had a baby, but they let her finish weaning the baby off because they had a gap in the stones, and they let her wean off the baby day in as they added more stones until she had weaned them off completely, and then they completed and sealed her off. That's the world that Jesus saved us from. Yep. And that is that every city, you go to a ribbon cutting today for business, a new business opens in town, they bring out the big scissors and stuff, and have coffee and stuff. Well, the ribbon cutting ceremony for the ancient world for creating a new city was this cornerstone ritual where you put a human victim in there and you lay that stone down. Okay, it's blessed. It was blessed because they had to sacrifice one for the greater good. The idea was that we need to show a sacrifice to our ancestors or the spirits or the gods, because if we don't appease them with blood of an innocent, they may come and stir up trouble and cause us trauma. Yeah. Right? So they were trying to sacrifice one for the greater good. So what is Jesus saying? So literally, what happens is the week later that he says that. He said, when these people are silent, the stones will cry out. And that's exactly what happened, because the next week they were silent. They sold him out. They were opposite of silent. They were calling for his crucifixion, but it's the same thing. They were silent. They were not praising him anymore. Yeah. And what happens? The stones cried out. Ever since Jesus went through that passion story where he dies on the cross, everywhere anybody who hears that story, they've been abandoning their sacrificial practices. That's one of the first things in indigenous communities when they encounter the gospel, the missionaries say they let go of their sacrifices. Because they get it. They get it more than even we get it today because we're so far removed.
No, you're not kidding. You are not kidding on that, dude. Like, we have no idea what this Western culture and what history looks like. And that's part of the reason why they want to destroy and get rid of and cancel history.
Yeah.
Is because there's so much power in it.
Right.
You know, there's so much power. And you'll know that if you knew history so well, you know, and I speak to like the average person, if you knew your history, then you would be able to see the things that are coming.
Right.
You know, because, you know, history doesn't always repeat itself, but it always rhymes at least.
Right.
You know, sometimes it does repeat itself, but I mean, there's these variables that you can just see, and you can see, like, you know, you have the state and all that stuff, and you know, you talk about how they have their own religion, and honestly, I think science to a degree is a part of that, is very much a part of that, because now it's not even about, you know, the testing of things anymore. It's just kind of like, you know, this is the science of it, therefore believe it, you know.
So like the power of Odin says.
Exactly, you know.
It's like, no, there's no science behind it. You just use the word science.
We use different words, right?
As magic spells, right?
But they're all the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what, and I think, like, you know, technology, you know, like, maybe that was magic to them back in the day, you know? Like, I think about all these things, and there's always these connections. It's like, know your history, you know, don't let them cancel it. Don't be an idiot, you know? Be knowledgeable, right? Be ready, because... Dude, dark things are coming, you know, and especially if we do not turn away from the things that we're doing, and we don't find love, unity, and common ground, which a lot of these people don't want us to, you know, and a lot of them don't, because there is great money and great oppression and great, you know, control by having all this go on. Like, don't be caught unaware. Don't be caught unaware.
But I do think that we can have a renaissance if people turn back to imitating Jesus, because that's ultimately what we need to do. You know, when you have the reason why we have so many problems is because it all goes back to imitation. We are imitating the bad role models. We need good role models.
Yep.
And people say, I don't want to follow Jesus, you know, because, you know, he's controlling. But it's like, no, you're always following somebody. You're always in awe of somebody.
Yep.
You're always inspired by somebody. There's somebody that's always drawing you towards them, whether you know it or not.
Yep.
The books that you read, the characters that you've heard about, the stories that you've been told, the person down the road who's got a nicer car than you, or a nicer house, or something that you want to have, or the nicer family, or the bigger career, or the bigger position in your job, whatever it is, there's always something that we're looking at and saying, oh, I want that, I want to be like that, I want to have that feeling of peace that person seems to exhibit in their life. I want to have that authority that person seems to have. I want to have that popularity. I want to have that desire. People desire that person. So we're always looking at other people and emulating them. And so what Jesus is saying is, look, you're going to do it, so imitate me, because every time you imitate me, I'm not going to try to draw you into trying to beat other people and try to conquer them. I'm going to help you, show you how to serve people, how to wash the feet of those who are underneath you, so that you reverse the cycle of trying to keep up with the Joneses. Now you're trying to do it the opposite. You know what I mean? Instead of trying to buy a bigger car to compete with them, now you're saying, hey, I'm going to wash your feet. How can I serve you today? How can I help you empower yourself?
I'm going to love the needy. I'm going to help the oppressed. I'm going to, you know, because it's like you said, it's this attitude of just me, right? It's all about me.
But it comes from, you have to have freedom. You have to have nonviolence. You know, Jesus says God desires mercy, not sacrifice. He says, do not resist evil with violence, right? And that you can't resist it violently. He says, turn the other cheek. What does that mean? It doesn't mean be passive. You can defend your family. What it means is that when someone tries to shame you, don't respond with reciprocal shame back at them. Because when you do that, you just keep escalating the conflict over and over again. That's what I told you about René Girard. René Girard was an anthropologist. He became a Christian because he was a secular academic. He was a French anthropologist, and he was considered the top in that time. I mean, he was like the biggest star of France, and they were like, you know, in a world of totally trying to get rid of religion at the time. And he came in there and he wrote a book called Violence and the Sacred. He looked at all the mythologies and so forth. He became a big superstar. Over there in France, they treat intellectuals like we treat Hollywood celebrities. And then his next book came out. It was called Things Hidden Since the Foundation of the World. That's a quote from Jesus. And that's where he revealed that he understood everything he learned about human conflict and desire and everything by studying the Bible. And they're like, oh man, get off the stage, man. We thought you were going to be our new Darwin or something. You're going to take the final, you know, take out Christianity, the final thing. And he reversed it. He said, actually, I came to Christianity through my intellect first before I came to the faith. He said, actually, when I studied the text, I realized that it deconstructed everything about human history, everything about human behavior. It told me more about human beings than I knew anything from anywhere else. And that it informed all the great works of Western literature. All the things that we exhibit and take for granted today were informed because of the impact of the Bible, shaping our worldview. And so the thing is, what he points out is like, we always look at the Bible as like, what does this say about God? Especially like Jesus, right? And that's theology, the study of God. But we don't take an anthropology look, right? Anthropology is study of humankind. And now think about this. Jesus says more that he's the Son of Man than he is the Son of God. Like he, not that he's not the other, but the point is he emphasizes, as he's doing what he's doing, I'm the Son of Man.
He's literally the bridge. Like that's what he's supposed to be. He's the bridge between God and man.
Right.
That's why he's so important.
Right. But what I'm saying is this: like we don't think. The reason why we don't see how practical Jesus is for understanding where we're at is because we theologize him only. We don't put anthropology.
See
what I mean? Because once you study the Bible, so you're looking at the text. You put one glasses on and say, okay, how are we going to look about, what does this tell us about God? And most Christians and most churches, they keep that glass on all the time. They just stay in that of, what does this say about God? And that's fine. Up to a point, but that doesn't tell you what Jesus is really doing. Because Jesus is Son of God, which means he's going to tell us what God's about, but he's also Son of Man, which means he's going to tell us what humanity is all about. And once you put that glass on too, and now you put on, okay, let me look at this, studying what does this say about humans? Where did we come from? Now you're going to see a whole nother perspective that fits perfectly with your theology. And once Christians do that, they will start understanding how brilliant, how masterful Jesus is, and I'm telling you, so many people abandon the faith because they don't understand the anthropology that Jesus was revealing. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. It changes your life.
I'll say this, like whenever, like with my own personal walk, because like I 15 is when I really started. Like I mean, I got saved early on, but like I think when I took it seriously was around 15 years old. But I've noticed that the church, the American church, I'll say it that way, does a huge disservice to people, right? Because of, like you said, the Sunday school, right? The way they teach people and all that stuff, it's kind of just like, we treat it as like it's a flu shot. Like, come get saved. All right, you're good, now go. And they're not even necessarily saved, right? Because you've just proclaimed them, purposely that they're saved. And they have no idea who God is, and they're just like, okay, well, I guess I'm saved. And now it's actually harder to get them to actually become a Christian because they already presume that they are saved. And I think one of the best things I did was not walk away from the American church. I'll say that because I do serve with a good church, and I have a great leader and all that stuff too. But when I got to the point where I was like, I don't want people telling me what to believe, But if I'm going to take that stance, I need to make sure I know what I believe and why I believe it, and that's digging into that. It's like you said, the anthropology, and all that good stuff, like the theology of it. You got to know why. You got to know who God is. You got to know who Jesus is. But I even do some of this myself. Like I read a lot of other things besides the Bible, right? Because I want to see what it compares to. Because I believe personally that the truth will stand. Like I don't need to make it stand, on my own, intellectually speaking. Like this is going to be how it is. It's like gravity, Like I don't have to justify gravity. I just got to throw it in the air and be like, oh, yep, that's gravity. And so, but people don't do that. They don't do their due diligence. They, just like I was saying about history, they don't care about history. They don't care about God. They don't care about anything but themselves. And then when things all go to hell, they're like, oh my God, what's going on here? And it's like, my goodness, but.
Yeah, it's true. And I think that, again, I would encourage people to look into the anthropology of what Jesus is doing, because if you're tempted by woke ideology or whatever things, like you're going to find better answers in the anthropology of Jesus. Because we get into things like scapegoating. Scapegoating is what drives so much of cancel culture. Oh, you're bad. You're
the bad person.
And so again, that's what binds people together. That's their religion, right? We are bound together because we're not you. See what I mean? That's what keeps them together. They have to have a Grinch.
They have to have an enemy.
The Grinch stole Christmas. That's you, because you are a white guy and you went to the January 6th thing. You're a Grinch. And so there's a lot of people that they are bound together with a tribe because they mutually exclude you. They are bound together by mutually casting you out into hell in their minds, right? And so that's what we have to overcome. That's what Jesus helps you overcome, because Jesus provides the justice that the McWoke community wants to have.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say community. Let's call it the Nick Woke ideology. I care about the community because every time I talk to those people one-on-one, I can provide solutions for them using Christian principles way better than any of their political communist or socialist ideology. Yep. That stuff is a failure. It's outdated. It's stinky. It doesn't work. It's disgusting.
And a lot of it's been tried already, and it's failed multiple times.
And it's bigoted. They never tell you what you really get. Uncle Joe Stalin always had a bigger house than his comrades, let me tell you. It was not communist. He had a nice house. They had nothing. Yep. They had to eat themselves over in Ukraine during the starvation campaign. So let's get the history right. Let's understand that communism is a joke. It's a ripoff of Christianity. It's a cheap imitation of the real deal. Christianity is where we need to go back to. That doesn't mean that you have to get all your theology right and understand all your metaphysics. But here's what I tell people. Whether you're Christian or not, you should want to study the life of Jesus because he's the most important, at the very least, he's the most important man of history.
Yeah.
And so think about it. People back in the day when they wanted to get ideas for creating a business, they'd study Steve Jobs' biography. They'd go read a 400-page book about Steve Jobs' life because they wanted to feel what did he do? What was he like that made him so transformative? And they'll do the same thing for Tesla or for Elon Musk and Tesla, Edison. But Jesus split time. That's how big he was.
Yep.
And he didn't even have to start a business. You know what I mean? He didn't have to have kids. He died at 30 years old and he split time.
Yeah.
So even if he's not God, I'm telling this to my friends who are listening who are not religious. You should if you want to do something great in your life, forget what your Christian friends say that you're upset with them about because they act hypocrite or whatever your problem is with them. You should want to study that man's life because he split time and he affects your life whether you like it or not. Yeah. You're living in the effects of what he did in history.
Yeah, and you can't erase it.
That's right. Because I tell people, Jesus said, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. And you think about when he said that, what was happening at the time. I mean, think about what it meant to be the last. Yep. Maybe you were a disabled person. That's the people he dealt with. Yep. Handicap, disability, a disease, leper. So if you went in Jesus' time to go have a time of entertainment, to go do community, you said people like to go do community. So you want to go do community, you maybe go to the theater. So you go into the theater because you want to be a part of community. But you're the last, you're the least of these.
Yep.
So if you're handicapped or disabled or disfigured,
go to the front.
What's going to happen? Yeah, what happens when you show up at the theater? You might be today's entertainment.
Yeah.
You're not going to get the best seat in the house.
No.
I mean, when you go in and you're lame, think about this is what Jesus is going through. He's a real human being. So he's saying the last shall be first, the first shall be last when I am done with his. That's what I'm going to do in history. And what was the last? The last was the person, like I said, think about a lame person or something like that. They showed up to get a ticket. They might grab them and throw them in to be devoured by the lions for laughter.
Yeah.
For the pre-game warm-up. So... And who was the first? Of course, it would be the Roman, the governor, or whatever. So when Jesus is going to theater and he's seeing his community on display, the last is thrown in for tonight's entertainment. The first is sitting in the best seat of the house. That's the world he lived in, and that's the world for thousands of years that humans lived in up to that point. And now think about it today, 2,000 years later since Jesus came into history. You go to the West, where he's been most long told in his story in impacting, you go into the theater today. Where's the best seats in the house?
It's in the back because the lid goes up, right?
It's in the handicap spot. Go to the movie theater.
Oh, sure, yeah, in the front, yeah. Well, no, because they have them right in the middle, yeah. So because you go up, the best view, yeah. You're right.
Spot.
Yeah.
So that's where the governor would sit in Jesus' time.
Yep.
Now we preserve that with handicap spots.
Yeah.
Right? So now, when you go to a movie and it's packed, and the movie started, and there's and you see a group of people coming in after it's been going for a few minutes. To this day, go in there and see. I mean, they don't do it as much now with COVID, but you still see it. But you got a packed theater, and that whole row of handicap seats, there's nobody's in them, and as there's a couple coming in. The odds that there's going to be enough handicapped people that you're going to take somebody's spot is so minuscule because the movie's already started. It's almost packed. You can sit in that handicap row. Don't worry. You know, if another one comes in, they'll have a spot too.
Yeah.
That's actually handicapped.
Yeah.
But it's so sacred. It's so revered in our culture that the last that was treated as the last now is treated as the first.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
And now, in our world, you have, in order to be successful, you can't show off your wealth and flaunt your power because you're considered the least.
Yep.
See what I mean? So like think about it. Think of it another way. That like the impact of Jesus in history. You look at like Brett Kavanaugh. You know, he was accused of all these things, right? Now, whatever you think about those accusations, think about how huge of a difference that is from Jesus' world. Like, would a judge of the High Court of Rome have any, like, if a girl from his college days in Rome?
No, they wouldn't care.
They'd be like, "The hell do you? Who are you?
Yeah.
We're about to make you look really bad
Yep.
in really evil ways."
Yeah, there was no talking about it back in those days.
But today we live in such an impacted world by Jesus' concerns for the least of these, that even a mere accusation can shake the foundations of a man who is going to be seated in the highest seat of the land.
Yep. The only time you'd ever talk about it is if there was a rebellion. That's the only way you'd be able to talk about stuff like that.
Right.
You know?
Think about the footballs in the football games today. You know, because again, because I'm trying to show people like visuals of like how like concrete examples of like it was this way when Jesus was here. Now it's this way 2,000 years later, and most that way in the countries that have had his story the longest, uninterrupted.
Exactly. Yeah.
Think of the football game. You know, today in the gladiatorial games of the past, that was their football. So you came in there and you would see people tear themselves apart. Intestines are coming out, nasty stuff. And they're roaring with applause. Now, 2,000 years after Jesus came into history, we have football. It's simulated warfare. And we're concerned about concussions for the athletes.
Yep.
Were they concerned about concussions for gladiators? Were they concerned about, you know, today we're so concerned for the least of these that we are concerned about the epidemic of spousal abuse in football players, right? That there was a problem with that. And I asked people, you know, do you think people would be concerned about how gladiators treated their girlfriends in the Roman Empire?
No.
Like, we're really concerned about how Gladius is treating his girlfriends.
Right now.
No, of course not. So you see, like, we have become so concerned for the least of these, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's the impact of Jesus, that he has upended exactly as he said he would do the way that we're going to change the way we're doing things.
Yeah.
And here's what we need to do. We need to honor and recognize that the reason we are the way we are is because of Jesus, and let's do it right now. Because right now, political correctness is like, again, a cheap imitation of Jesus's revolution.
Agreed.
But it's doing it with violence and vengeance in mind rather than reconciliation.
Yeah.
So the political correctness is just Christianity, but it's with vengeance added back. Because it's like, hey, Jesus, your way of reconciling the oppressor with the oppressed, that's not strong enough. Let's go kick their tails. Let's go get vengeance. That's what they call equity. Equity is the new term.
Yep.
Not just equality. No, we need to have equity where you get weights on you as punishment because you had too much than somebody else in another class of people. But Jesus doesn't see that. Jesus sees us as human beings.
Yep.
And we have to imitate him and see our neighbors as a human being. And when we treat our neighbor with love, empathy, and nonviolence, then we can start to heal these issues where there is systemic injustice, there is oppression, there is corruption. Let's take it on neighbor to neighbor together.
Yep.
That's what Jesus gives us the opportunity to do. And if we do that, we don't have to be stuck in a dark age. We can move out.
And that's why even Jesus was big on forgiveness. And I think that's a huge issue today. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I wasn't there 400 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't enslave anyone. I didn't, abuse anyone of any other race. And, to make, white people, quote unquote, pay, I mean, it's just ridiculous. That just means that you're not forgiving. And Jesus clearly says, he says, if you don't forgive others, my Father will not forgive you. And the story is never going to end. I'm not going to say it's going to end. But this story is going to continue, and there is going to be a day where Jesus does come back, and he's going to be the conquering king that they thought he was going to be. And on that day, like, you don't want to be caught like that. You know what I'm saying? With this unrepentant, or this hateful, spiteful, arrogant heart. You want to be found, worthy of the gospel that was preached, and I mean, of course, nobody's going to be perfect, but there's a huge difference between somebody that's like, you know what, I messed up, like, please forgive me, versus like, you guys just need to deal with it, right? You owe me, and, I hate you, and, I'm coveting, I'm doing all these things. I'm sorry, but God's not going to look. It doesn't matter what I think, right? Because I believe that there is a God. It's either, and that's what kind of blows my mind with people is like, there either is a God, there isn't. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? There is no wish-washy thing of all these ideas. It's like, all right, there's a God. Who is he? Right? How do we know that this is true? Blah, blah, blah. And I think that's why Jesus is so prevalent, because he was doing miracles, right? There's all these accounts and eyewitnesses of all these things saying, yeah, it was true. This is who he was. This is, I don't need a ton of quote unquote proof. I mean, there's proof everywhere. I'm not going to say there's no proof, but like, what I'm saying? Like, okay, if all these people say, this is what happened, right? He's transformed society, right? Like you said, like in this fundamental way, I'm going to believe that historically that is true. Okay, now let me go see what he says. Let me look at it. Let me kind of chew on it. Okay, he's a man of love, right? He preaches, forgiveness. He preaches, taking care of the orphan and the widow, and all these great. I can get behind all that. Like, why wouldn't I get behind all that? But they want to pin these radicals of people that use Christianity for oppressive reasons. They want to pin all these, these unrepentant, horrible people, and they're like, see, that's what Christianity really is. No, go back to the source. Where did it start? Right? Like, you look at, if I want to know about Islam, I'm not going to look at, Muslims and all that stuff. I'm going to go look at Muhammad, right? The one that was preaching, the one that was teaching. What did he preach? What did he teach? What did he do with his life? And then if I look at that and I go, ooh, that wasn't a very good guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would not want that. I wouldn't want to follow a man like that. Right? Which, again, it all comes down to belief and who are you following and why are you following? Why do you believe what you believe? Right? I followed Jesus because of the man that he was. Right? What did he teach? Right? Nobody's going to do it perfectly, and I have to understand that. And people need to understand that. Right? Like, if there's a Christian trying to tell you about Jesus, that is like the greatest form of love. And he's not trying to say, hey, I'm better than you. He's saying, look, I'm a horrible person. I had to follow this man because if I would have went the way that I wanted to go, it wouldn't have ended well for me. You know what I'm saying? And there's so many stories like that. But then some people do take Christianity and say, you know what? You got to be perfect if you want to go get with God. And it's like, no, that's not at all what God was teaching. So, I mean, that's my spiel on that. But I'm going to start kind of wrapping it here up. But, dude, such a great conversation. I love it. I really do. Such a breath of fresh air. You need to get me on your show, bro. Yeah. I'm ready, dude. I'm ready whenever you are. And we need to do this again. Honestly, I want you to. I was sad because my dad was supposed to come here as well because he kind of helps me co-host. Okay. And but he ended up twisting his ankle and because when he was working out in the yard and all that stuff, and he was swelled up. He's like, I can't come. He's like, he showed me pictures of his feet just swelled up. And so, but he would love. I could already tell he would love to meet you. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. It'd be good. To meet him. And. Dude, I appreciate you so much. Is there anything, any shout-outs or anything, or anything you want to promote?
If people want to follow my work, you can go to, at neighborschoice.com. That's neighbors, it's the letter A neighborschoice.com. Or, just search for my name, David Gornoski, on whatever podcast platform you use, and you can check out our show. And, I mean, it's a pleasure being here, and glad I was able to come over.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure meeting you, man. We had a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to it again, all right?
Very good.
So thank you guys for watching. Make sure you click that subscribe button, click like, click all them. Unless you didn't like it, you can click dislike. That's fine. We'll take it. But we love you guys. Treat each other well, and we will see you later. Bye.